No registrations for petrol two-wheelers in Delhi after April 1st, 2028. That has been the most contentious point of the Delhi EV policy, and that, among the other points of the policy, is what we are going to discuss today on Deep Drive, our weekly automotive podcast powered by Kotak Mahindra Prime. I'm Sergius Barretto.
And I'm Rishaad Mody. Yeah, Sergius, that's definitely the highlight of the policy.
Right.
It's a big statement. I think it's a statement that's still being digested. I'm keen to see how the big OEMs deal with this, because it's perhaps just Delhi today, but it's the start of something possibly as well. But there are other aspects to this policy that I think maybe we should just touch on, just the brief highlights of what it is. More than just the two-wheelers, we have commercial vehicles or small commercial vehicles, which is the L5 and N1 category, if I'm not wrong, that from as soon as Jan next year will have to be electric only.
Yeah, the three-wheelers.
And that is a big segment as well. It's not something very relevant to us that we think about a lot, but it's a very big part of the entire transport sector within a city generally.
Right.
So that's a big deal. For cars, they haven't put a deadline on it yet,
Yes.
Which I think is a bit of a relief. But it's also interesting that there are some incentives, I think, for cars.
Yeah, Rishaad. I mean, there's no sort of deadline on, a petrol automobile, a four-wheeler. You can still buy and register them in Delhi. That would perhaps be quite a step, maybe too far. Perhaps this one is. We'll get to that. And yeah, there have been incentives. In fact, incentives across, for three-wheelers, two-wheelers, as well as four-wheelers. So, for example, four-wheelers for all electric vehicles below 30 lakh rupees, you have no registration and road tax. So there's a full waiver there. So that's quite something interesting. Now, I have been talking to some of the, premium luxury brands who are saying, well, it should have been for all electric vehicles. And
I think EVs sell the most in the premium.
They do. In fact, if you look at the let's say, luxury and premium, above 40 lakh, the EV penetration there is pretty high. It's about 15 to 25%. It's
That's really high, because with two-wheelers, it's not even 10% yet.
Yeah. No, I mean, in fact, even if you look at the whole the four-wheeler world, well, last month we as we know, we've been climbing higher and higher. It's about 7%, right? So yeah, this one is like, let's say 20 plus. Which is a pretty good penetration level to have.
But no incentives for them.
No incentives for them. I can see the logic on both sides. Sure, the luxury manufacturers have all been saying to me that, well, look, this would have sort of served as a catalyst, because people are sort of more it's easier to change to an EV, when it's your luxury car, your second and third and fourth car, etc. With more EV adoption at the top end, it would have percolated down, served as a catalyst. But at the same time, the Delhi government doesn't want to subsidize somebody who is really well off. Yeah,
I would say already well off, and subsidize a segment that's already sort of got good momentum.
Yes.
You want to subsidize the segment that you want to build momentum in.
Exactly.
Right? So I get that point of why it doesn't. What I find a little disappointing is that we still don't consider hybrids to be a clean solution. There is nothing for hybrid. Two-wheeler or four-wheeler, not that there are much two-wheeler hybrids in this policy.
In the policy, no. Exactly. So while that's been the sort of incentive on, let's say, the electric four-wheelers, you're right, there isn't anything on hybrids. I think, yes, that is a sort of a missed opportunity for a couple of reasons. One is, yes, we are saying that, hybrids will be around now, and or rather internal combustion will be around for a lot longer than we thought initially. So it would have made sense to perhaps incentivize them in some way, not the same level as an EV, because we know EV is the end goal. But also with ethanol, E85, flex fuel vehicles, the government's also pushing that, right? That's another contentious topic out there. The drop in mileage in E85, in a hybrid, it's actually compensated for to some extent, because the electric motors is assisting, and it's being charged on the go while deceleration and things like that. So actually, a flex fuel hybrid is a very good solution. Now, it does send the cost up.
Yeah.
And that's where an incentive would have helped.
Yeah. But sadly, it doesn't exist.
It doesn't exist. Doesn't exist. There are other incentives, though, for EVs. Besides this, there is a scrappage incentive of up to, I think, 1 lakh rupees. If you scrap, but a BS4 or older
and
car.
I think that's up to 10,000 rupees for two-wheelers.
And yes, and on two-wheelers also there is. So there is a scrappage scheme as well. Now, you've got to, of course, scrap the vehicle, get a certificate from a government-approved, obviously, scrappage facility. and buy your electric vehicle within, I think there's a 6-month time frame.
Okay.
Right. So there are some incentives, as we were saying, which are, I think, a step in the right direction. Has to be done if we want to move this along. But besides these incentives, yes, we have to get to the main reason why everyone's been talking about this EV policy, is that ban on petrol or even CNG, actually, because they've included CNG. There is only one that is CNG bike.
Yeah.
Yes, but they've also sort of banned that bike. That can't be registered as well in the NCR region. Now,
In Delhi region.
oh, sorry, yes,
Delhi
thanks for correcting me, in the Delhi region. And now that actually creates a problem, right? I mean,
Let's get back to that.
Yeah.
Because I want to talk some numbers.
Okay.
And starting with why two-wheelers.
Okay.
I think it's a good reason to single out why should they ban two-wheelers first. And the logic there is that two-wheelers are the most polluting form of transport in a city.
Okay.
But that's because of volume, not on an individual basis.
Okay.
And a two-wheeler engine is small and it puts out a small amount of pollution relative to a bigger vehicle. But there are just so many of them on our roads that as a collective, there are various studies that have come out that say that yes, two-wheelers, when it comes to PM 2.5, do emit collectively more than the rest. So fair enough. That's why they have picked out on two-wheelers. Now, this is a big step. And when there are big steps, there are big challenges. And that's what we're here to discuss today. I think the first challenge is just the sheer numbers. Now, according to Vahan data, over 5 lakh two-wheelers were registered in Delhi last year.
Okay.
Close to 6, actually. If you count EV percentage of that, it was less than 10%. Okay, so we're looking at, let's say, 93, 95% of those 5 point whatever lakh vehicles were all petrol. When you look at people buying petrol vehicles, they tend to want motorcycles. Yes, scooter has a share in there, but it's motorcycle that is a big aspect of it. And when you look at EV, motorcycle is non-existent. And these are the numbers I want to share with you. Now, of the two-wheeler motorcycle manufacturers currently selling electric two-wheeler motorcycles, we have Oben, a startup that sold 590 units in Delhi last year. We have Revolt that sold 580 units in Delhi last year. Matter, 40. Ultraviolet, 60. And that's about it.
Right.
This is according to Vahan data. If you look at a big player, a startup player like Ather, it was 3,900 units in Delhi last year. Okay. So now we have this big void that needs to be filled with EV. And I don't see the supply there.
Right.
We have 2 years to go. One thing I see is that this could speed up the introduction of electric motorcycles. There's no big player in India right now.
From the mainstream brands.
There's no one selling an electric motorcycle right now, not even Ather. So they are all working on it. We have reported that Hero, TVS, Honda, everyone is working on it. But I think this could be a catalyst to get those bikes coming out sooner. And I think we could see the introduction of more electric motorcycles, conventional ones, not your high-performance ultraviolet sort of motorcycles, coming a little faster than they were supposed to. So that is one aspect of this thing that I see being a challenge. And I think that 2027 will be the biggest year ever in terms of two-wheeler sales in Delhi. And
Yes,
2028 is going to be a big drop.
Right.
And that's going to be interesting in how it plays out.
Rishaad, since you did speak about the percentage of contribution, in terms of pollution, two-wheelers, yes, they are a huge volume and they do contribute a lot to pollution. But you know what's interesting when they talk of that, they're talking about the pollution that the transport sector contributes to the overall air pollution. In fact, IIT Kanpur, there are a lot of reports on that study that say that apparently the air pollution in Delhi, about 20-25% comes from the transport sector.
Yeah.
Right, which means about 80% is coming from non-transportation sector. Road dust, construction dust, burning of waste and things like that, which also need to be addressed, right? PM 2.5 comes from all of these sources also. Yes, also from the two-wheelers and the bikes. Now, from the transport sector, again, if you look at the transport sector, the bike is about 33. Two-wheelers are 33%. So from that 20% is actually another smaller slice that is. So, of course, it's significant, not saying not. You've got to address it for sure. But we have to address the others also. Just putting that point out there.
I kind of agree with you, and I'm not going to be that sort of shouty person on the internet who says, why aren't you banning those things when you're... Make your moves here, no problem.
Correct.
But address the other aspects as well. Now,
Also,
the crop burning, I mean, it's talked about every year when Delhi gets full of smog in the winter. It's a complex issue. One thing that should be accelerated, in my opinion, is ethanol generation 2.0. We're using agricultural waste.
Right.
This is agricultural waste we're burning. Right. There should be massive investment into scaling 2.0 up.
2G.
2G, sorry, 2G.
Yeah.
And using this should be. What I have noticed as someone who rides a motorcycle regularly, lives in traffic, lives in pollution, the biggest source of pollution for me that I've noticed over the last few years is dust. Is construction dust. And I want to see as stringent, if not more stringent, a policy towards construction within cities. And this is road construction, metro construction, and building construction. Look at Mumbai, for example. In the last 5 years, we have gone through this enormous redevelopment phase where tens of thousands of buildings are being brought on and coming back up. And because of that, roads are being torn down to bring in new electricity and new drainage. And it's crazy. But it's haphazard and chaotic. What have we got so far? We've got LED boards that say there is 10 ppm coming out of this building, which, I mean, or whatever, you know what I mean? We need stricter policy in terms of construction. For example, why are trucks with filthy, muddy tires allowed out onto the road?
Right.
Why are trucks carrying construction material allowed on the road without them being fully covered? My commute is 33 kilometers. I wash my jacket on the weekend. It is a nice shiny jacket, shiny black jacket at the start of Monday morning. And by the time I reach office, there is a grey patch around here. And that's entirely of dust coming off our roads. If we can control that, we can really bring down pollution in all of our cities. And I think that is something that I don't see any action happening.
Exactly. Yeah, that's why I just wanted to put that point out there. Yes, of course, we have to tackle transportation sector. We have to tackle the two-wheeler pollution along with everything else, because it's not going to make a difference. Now, I know it's easy to target these, and so you'll start here, but you just can't stop here, as we tend to often do. But coming back to, let's say, the policy itself, I think yes, it's not something new, as you were telling me also, and we were discussing right earlier, that there are cities in the world. China has many cities that have a ban on internal combustion two-wheelers and restrictions. Yes, so it is there, but perhaps for us in Delhi, it was too soon, or it is too soon, because like you just pointed out, we don't have enough of electric two-wheelers to replace, that. That doesn't exist today. It's going to have to be introduced really, really quickly. The other bit is the infrastructure to charge all of these.
That's a big concern.
In parking spots, two-wheelers very often park on the road. Right, not everyone has a designated parking spot for a two-wheeler. Sometimes two-wheelers are jam-packed. If you've seen how you park them, lines and lines of them, charging all of those guys in those lines, it's gonna be a massive hassle. Safety, distribution of electricity, that needs to be sorted out. How you're gonna charge these electric two-wheelers. The other bit is the availability of electricity itself. Now, starting, of course, it's going to be less, but as you put more and more bikes onto the grid,
what is the load on the grid?
What is the load on the grid?
Yeah.
Delhi is not a city like, let's say, Mumbai, where we have uninterrupted power supply.
I think there are areas that do get power cuts at night.
In Delhi, there is. Yeah, I mean,
that's when people charge.
Yes, exactly. I mean, like, for example, here, this office we run without power backup and UPSs. And I remember one of our colleagues coming down from the Delhi office and saying, where's the UPS? And he was so surprised and stunned, saying, no, wait, what do you mean there's no power backup here? And I was like, yeah, because power doesn't go here.
It's a uniquely Mumbai thing.
A uniquely Mumbai, and very specific to small areas within Mumbai. I think if you go further out, it's a problem again. So I think, yes, it's been a step quite soon. Like you said, no choice on bikes. Charging space and infrastructure doesn't seem to exist. And then I want to ask you another question, which is, we're looking at this biking through the lens of a commuter, right? But there's also pleasure biking. And for you, Rishaad, I mean, you love bikes. Take me, for example. I like bike. I'm not a regular hardcore biker, but I love motorcycling, and I'll do it purely for pleasure sometimes, right? Bug you for a bike or two, or I take my Hunter 350 out now and then. It's just for pleasure. What happens to that segment?
I'm going to come back to that aspect of it. But for now, all I can say is that leisure is treated as a luxury in this country.
Fair
And
enough.
the fact that 350cc and above bikes are taxed at 40% GST, whereas it irks me.
Okay.
But for some reason, these are seen as things to tax. We'll get back to that. What I do want to talk to you about, and I've made a few notes about this. As someone who's used a lot of EVs, we ride a lot of them, we test a lot of them. The biggest concern is charging. And to me, this is my biggest concern with this Delhi EV policy. They say they will set up 30,000 chargers across.
That's part of the policy.
As part of the policy. Okay. There needs to be more than that. And I'll tell you a couple of reasons, or a couple of things that I'm getting at. As of now in India, we do have a couple of charging standards, but there are still many scooters that use different kinds of chargers. The top two selling EVs in the country are the Bajaj Chetak and the TVS iQube. They both use proprietary charger designs. So their port is proprietary, and they give you a charger with a 3-pin plug designed for home charging. Then you have Ultraviolet, which uses Type 6. Then you have Ather, Vida, Matter that use Type 7. Now, there are these grid charging operators that have their own, private charging outlets. There are quite a few of them with Type 7, one or two with Type 6. But it's haphazard, and we don't have a proper charging standard in terms of uniformity across the EVs that are available at the moment. Home charging is extremely important, in my opinion, for two-wheeler EVs especially. I don't see enough of a focus in the Delhi EV policy for home charging. Now, there is a point in there that says that resident welfare associations and housing societies will be encouraged.
Yeah, in fact, that was the wording, I think, was encouraged
to incorporate charging. And I don't believe encouragement is enough. There needs to be a clear structure in how it will.
A mandate. You have to allow
you have to create a design for what that mandate is going to be. In Delhi alone, in the last year, there has been a big problem between Delhi and NCR region of the fire department coming to societies and saying this is a fire hazard and you need to remove all these chargers from underground parkings. Fair enough, it's a concern. But it's a concern for how do you charge this vehicle now. There were many people who got caught out with their cars who had their own personal chargers removed from their charging spot. That really needs to be addressed. So I feel like there needs to be more clarity and more purpose towards solving the charging infrastructure. And that is the difference between what happened in China and what's happening over here. In China, they ensured that there was a good supply of vehicles. They're not great, the EVs, the Chinese EVs, but they're used generally within the city. But there's plenty of options. And most importantly, the infrastructure was there to support the consumer. That support for the consumer is my biggest concern with the Delhi EV policy. Can they really pull this off in 1.5 years? Or a little under 2 years? Can we have an infrastructure ready to support that many electric vehicles? And Sergius, I also had to answer your question about leisure motorcycling. Now, all of this is keeping the vision of inner city EVs. EVs that are used for commutes, EVs that are used within the city. They have a range of 80, 100 kilometers. They take 5 to 6 hours to charge, and that's their purpose. Now, you asked me about leisure motorcycling. Leisure motorcycling is all about getting out of the city, covering distance, going for a ride, going touring, doing things like that. What is supposed to happen to this customer? Am I supposed to not own a vehicle, or am I just supposed to own a vehicle outside the city, another vehicle outside the city? That's the uncomfortable, sticky point with this policy, that the enthusiast loses out here. And I don't like the feeling about that. And I hope that there's some sort of system built in the future where perhaps you charge a higher rate for registrations or whatever, but leisure motorcycling should not be killed in the name of this quest. Of course, you can just go outside the city and register the vehicle, which I think is
the next thing we want to discuss. Yeah, fair enough, because that's actually now the other bit. Yes, this is quite fast an implementation, as we've seen, but there is also the thing of sort of policing it or implementing.
How will they implement this?
Because yes, as we know, Delhi is only for Delhi right now. There is the NCR region. Dealers in Delhi, I mean, I lived there for about 8 or 9 years in Gurgaon, and all automotive dealers would offer you registrations in some other place if you so needed for whatever reason. So, for example, this being a reason, somebody in Delhi says, "Oh, I can't buy a Hunter 350 or a 650cc bike." in Delhi, sure, I'll buy it in Gurgaon or a neighboring area. And the dealer will facilitate some registration on some address, right? And it happens. Now, that has to be clamped down on. And it's not happened in the past. There doesn't seem to be a mechanism to clamp down on this, right? Because what you're then doing is providing this alternate, and an alternate that's a grey route outside of the legal framework, so the government's losing revenue there as well. So it's, I think it's something that Delhi will have to look at very seriously in terms of how do we implement this and make sure that a person in Delhi is not registering a bike outside on some other address, on a fictitious address outside, a fictitious one.
It's a really good point. And as you're saying this, I'm just picturing that this is creating this new economy in the surrounding areas of Delhi for all these dealerships.
Right.
And the convoluted aspect of this is that the Delhi subsidy is creating wealth for elsewhere. I mean, and it's effectively taxpayer money that is
correct.
That has created this altogether.
Yeah, it's something that needs to be looked at.
It will be tough though.
It will be tough. That's what I'm saying. It will be tough, and unfortunately, as we know, in India, we love to sort of outsmart. I would say outsmart. I mean, it's technically cheating the system. Outsmarting the system. So there will be people who will do this. Who will sort of register bikes on fictitious addresses or addresses that aren't theirs. And defeat the purpose of the policy. Because again, coming back to the fact that we just discussed, there aren't enough bikes. The choice, there is no charging infrastructure, to support that. So you're kind of pushed into that space where, man, I've got to have X particular bike which is non-EV, and so let me just register it outside. But there's also one more thing I want to ask you back, and you just mentioned this thing about pleasure biking and long distance biking, big bikes and fun bikes. Actually, some of the smaller bikes are also used for long distance commuting.
Yeah, totally.
And I know whenever I drive down to Goa for any of the holidays, whether be it Christmas, New Year, Diwali, etc., there's a big exodus going out from the city towards back towards all of the smaller towns and villages. And you'll see all along the highway guys on bikes, Splendors and things like that, riding from here to Satara, going down to Kolhapur and things like that. Now, again, an EV is going to make that ride a big challenge.
It kills that completely. And look, at the end of the day, what is the great appeal of motorcycling? It's freedom. I love the idea that if I wanted to, I could ride a Splendor around the world. And in fact, it would be a great bike to go around the world. It's simple. It wouldn't break down. It's frugal and it's a solid little thing. I can't do that anymore with this policy. So, look, I don't want to come across as someone who says this is a bad idea.
Same here. Yeah, we think it's a great idea, but
climate change is real.
Yeah.
We constantly face the repercussions of it. We are in the middle of July at the moment. We had 5 days of solid rain and it stopped.
Yeah.
This is not normal.
Correct.
But this is our new normal. We are going to face extreme weather events, and as we face them, we're going to have to, there will be extreme decisions taken that we will have to live by. So there has to be some sacrifice here. But all I think we are trying to say is that it needs to be more structured, it needs to be more strategic, and it needs to be implemented in a more scientific manner, if nothing else. I think, is that fair to say?
Yes, it is fair, Rishaad. I mean, also perfectly summed up. I think the podcast and everything we've discussed today, so it's a good point in which to wrap up. I mean, yes, you're right. You and I both love the outdoors, right?
You can love vehicles and the outdoors.
And the outdoors, exactly. I mean, I think we are motor enthusiasts who do like nature, which I hope there are more of. We see and we feel the pain when things are destroyed. So steps like these have to be taken. But when they're taken, they have to be taken, like you said, in a measured fashion, in a scientific fashion, and I would say in a fashion that's traceable and trackable. And to add to all of that, it has to be taken on everything that contributes to damaging the environment, not on only the easiest sectors to address, because very often those are the smaller contributors. The larger ones are the harder ones, and we tend to ignore those. So we must address all of these in a proper fashion. So yeah, that brings us to an end of this episode of Deep Drive. Let us know what you think about this policy and your suggestions to improving the policy and improving our environment and the planet Earth, the only planet we have to inhabit right now. So thanks for tuning in. And remember, we go live every week, Saturday, 11 a.m. on YouTube. And if you'd prefer to listen to this podcast, you can also catch us on Apple Music and Spotify.